Hello guys, today we'll be constructing this handmade shaving razor. It only takes about a day to make, as I use some pretty simple steps, but the finished product is just as functional and beautiful as any store-bought shaving razor. Please enjoy the video.
To begin this video, I will be using a piece of 15 N20 nickel steel left over from one of my Damascus billets, and I will be forging a 5/8 inch straight razor for shaving. And right now you can see this steel is just under half an inch, and it'll have to go up to 5/8 of an inch in thickness. So we'll need some flattening before I do the hollow grind.
Here we begin the forging process, which I fast forwarded because it was a little tedious to watch in full. But I flatten the blade and then grind out the rough shape of the handle so I can completely flatten the entire edge at once. Flattening continues as well as keeping the blade nice and straight. If the blade's allowed to bend too much one way, it'll really mess up the integrity of the razor. Here you can see I pound on the spine of the blade in order to help flatten the edge back to normal. However, with the razor, the edge is so thin that if it is hammered too roughly, you can crack and damage the blade. I've ruined many razors doing so. Here I grind the blade completely flat to remove any imperfections that occurred while forging. Any of these can cause bumps or spikes on the blade, which is impossible to shave with. You need a completely true and straight edge. And then I do the same to the spine, this time more for just aesthetic feel, so it's not a rough or bumpy spine either. I then grind the ends off the blade to make it flush and not have any extra points or odd shape to the end. This also makes it fit better in the handle, which I will build next. Here I prepare the quench tank, for which I will use to harden the blade. I use vegetable oil, which is a very low viscosity, quick quenching oil. Here I heat the blade to critical temp before quenching in the quench tank, which is right beside the fire. Here I perform the quench, which is hard to see with the bright fire still blazing in the background. This is necessary to keep the oil warm though. Here I have done the hollow grind for the blade, using the circular grinder behind it to give the slight hollow shape. This was hard to catch on video. Next, I sand the blade using progressively finer sanding paper. This gives me the fineness to the edge which is needed before going to even finer sanding methods later.
To begin the handle making process, I use a piece of freshly cut cedar, which is a nice pink and white color, and measure 2 widths of the blade onto the wood like that, and draw lines. I should say lengths rather. And that is used for deciding how long the handle will be, as the handle will stick out of the top of the blade, the tang part, like so, and the rest of the sheath will fit around like this. This is just a rough sketch I did with some pencil. So now that I have the shape, I can cut it out on a bandsaw. I now cut it out of the paper and make sure that it will fit the blade after I cut it out of wood. I then put the pattern on wood and trace the outline with the pencil. I know it's ready when I trace out the cardboard so it makes two symmetrical sides. This way, after I cut them out, they can fold together and become the handle pieces. The boards are now cut on the bandsaw, a tool which I just picked up.
Here the cutting process is shown in high speed as I shave wood off of the block and form the handles. I am very careful during the whole cutting process as I do not have any gloves on. I then take the freshly cut and shaped handle scales and flatten them very evenly on the 40 grit belt grinder. This makes a nice smooth surface for the handles to fit together when they're both done. Now that the handle scales are both ready and fit together nice and flush because they have flat surfaces, I carefully position and mark the blade for where it will be fixed in the handle. This is done by making sure the hole is drilled symmetrically through each handle as they are stacked over each other. The same process is repeated for the bottom of the handle. This is done so when I put the handles together with a bolt, I can grind the perimeters of the handles very evenly as they will be affixed together and won't slip. This is shown here. I now evenly grind the perimeters as the handles act as a single block of wood, making a very even and symmetrical shape. Here I have the two finished handle scales. They are now separated with the bolts and are very symmetrical and even on their own right. To permanently fix them to the blade, I use pop rivets, but not a pop riveter. This is because the cedar wood is way too fragile and would split if pop riveted. Instead, the rivets are lightly hammered flat to seal the handle together after spacers are inserted. By hammering them by hand, it ensures that they don't expand too much to crack the handle.